Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We have about a minute before we get started, so if you could take a moment to find the chat and tell us where you're joining us from today. We'd love to see where everyone's coming from. Oh, we have someone from Chattanooga, for Ohio, Stillwater, New York, Romeoville, Illinois. Welcome, everyone. We have Virginia, Massachusetts, Texas, Wyoming, Nebraska. Wow, we are from all over the place. That's so great. Sometimes the chat goes scrolling up so far that I miss so many. So apologies if I didn't get to show others that are representing from other states. We have New Hampshire, Pennsylvania, Iowa, North Carolina, Michigan. That is wonderful. If you're just joining us, first of all, welcome. Thank you for spending about 30 minutes with us this afternoon. We would love for you to find the chat and just let us know where you're coming from. Battle Creek, very nice. Minnesota, Cincinnati. We have Maryland. David from Rockford, hello and welcome. Michael from New Jersey. Utah, so exciting. I'm assuming many of us are done with school. Well, I suppose others may have another week or so, or we're also doing some summer school. So whether you are currently with a class or not, we are so glad that you chose to spend a little bit of your afternoon with us today. So thank you so much. Well, it is about 3:01. So I will go ahead and get started. So welcome to Beyond Q&A, facilitating dynamic discussions. I'm actually going to start with a rhetorical question. Who is doing most of the thinking in your classroom? Is it you or your students? So that one you don't have to answer in the chat. Feel free if you'd like to, but that was just a rhetorical, kind of set the stage for today's discussion. Who is doing most of the thinking in your classroom? Is it you or your students? Today, we're exploring one of the most powerful instructional strategies available to us, and that is classroom discussion. Research from John Hattie, and you know we love to incorporate his research here in our webinars, reminds us that learning becomes most powerful when teachers can see student thinking. And that is the challenge. If students aren't talking or explaining and responding to each other, their thinking stays invisible, excuse me, their thinking stays invisible. Yet many classroom discussions aren't really discussions at all. They're question answer sessions dominated by the instructor. Today, we'll look at how to transform those interactions into meaningful conversations that reveal student thinking, increase engagement, and provide valuable formative assessment data. So moving from teacher-led questioning to student-centered thinking. Oh no, the feed is going in and out. That's not good. Try to get you. Thanks for letting me know. I'm gonna keep going a little bit and just let me know if it continues to be an issue. May try another headset then. So we're excited that you are here for another session of The Educator's Edge. As always, the success of this webinar is really dependent upon your participation. So to make this learning experience a success, we'll have polling and reflection opportunities that you can engage with in the chat. And we hope to learn from and with each other as we continue this series. Thank you. So here are our learning outcomes for today. Notice our focus isn't simply asking better questions. It's creating learning experiences where students do the majority of the thinking and the talking. So we have, by the end of the session, you'll differentiate Q&A from discussion, use high impact questioning techniques, increase participation, gather a formative assessment evidence, and create a discussion plan. So take a moment to reflect on your current classroom discussions. This time I will be sending you a poll. In a moment, you should see a poll pop up on your screen. I'll go ahead and launch that. May take a second. And if it doesn't work for you in the polling in Microsoft Teams, please feel free to respond in the chat. As long as you're participating, that's what we love to see. So which statement best describes classroom discussion in your setting? Four options here. Same students always participate. Most students stay quiet. Discussion turns into teacher Q&A, or students build on each other's ideas. So which statement do you think best describes a classroom discussion in your current setting? I'll go ahead and submit one so we can go ahead and see the ratings here. Great. So, okay, about 60% same students always participate. Yes, absolutely. That happens in many classrooms, and that's completely understandable. That's why we do these sessions in hopes that we can add some more tools to your toolbox and see if we can get a little bit more participation from other students in the class. About 15%, most students stay quiet. About 17% discussion turns into teacher Q&A. Yep, I can see that. We're trying to always pull from the students, so we might prompt with another question in hopes that it engages them a little bit more. And about 12% students build on each other's ideas. That's great. We love to see that. So I would say about 57% same students always participate. Thanks for sharing, everybody. And again, if any of those polls don't work, you can always add in the chat. Thank you for letting me know that the poll you can't see, but yes, feel free to enter in the chat. Huh. My students look to this one student to answer. Yes, been there. So when students explain, defend, question, and connect ideas, they're doing much more cognitive work than when they're simply listening. So this is why discussion really matters, and we want to try to prompt a lot more of that if we can. The discussion will help students process information, clarify misconceptions. That's a good one. Build reasoning as they're trying to defend their position. Learn from their peers, of course, is always an important one. And of course, that's going to help those soft skills, employability skills in our CTE career paths, which is to develop communication skills. So it's good to encourage more and more discussion. Uh, so what does the research say? Hatter reminds us that learning becomes powerful when teachers can see student thinking. So discussion certainly makes that thinking visible. Discussion in classroom dialogue supports feedback cycles, student reasoning, deep processing, and of course, more visible learning. And we'll talk a little bit more about how, like, what does that mean? Discussion is visible learning. So take a look at this chart or table on the screen. On the left-hand side, we have traditional Q&A, and on the right side is a dynamic discussion. So in traditional Q&A, you might see the teacher asking the questions, typically one correct answer. The teacher will evaluate that, and then fewer voices. And then in a dynamic discussion, we have students inquiring more, maybe asking more questions. There's multiple perspectives, and students respond to their peers, which hopefully deepens the conversation and that discussion. And many more voices being heard. If not, the one standing up to represent the group, at least you hear more voices throughout the classroom, even if it is just with their peers. That's what we want to. So I'm going to show you two very real classroom scenarios. And before you respond, just go ahead and read and think. You don't have to send in an answer in the chat yet. But here are the two. So scenario A and scenario B. I typically wouldn't read this to you, but in case there's anybody just listening through audio, I'm going to go ahead and read the scenarios if that's easier for you. So in scenario A, we have the teacher asks a series of questions about the lesson. Several students respond, and the teacher follows up with prompts like good or that's right. And before they move on to the next question, of course, giving that feedback. And then a few students participate multiple times while others remain quiet. So we kind of saw that with the polling. And then in scenario B, we have the teacher posing a question and they ask students to take a moment to think. Students share ideas, respond to each other, and occasionally disagree, which of course is fine. And the teacher prompts students to explain their reasoning and invites others to build on or challenge those ideas. So take about 5 seconds or so, kind of soak in those two scenarios, and then I'll ask a question on the next slide. I'll also display those here as well. So scenario A, scenario B, and then for the chat, if you could take a moment and share your idea, which scenario leads to deeper student thinking and what is gained or lost in each. So I pose a couple questions and also suggest if you would like, you can feel free to respond to someone else's chat's response. Keep the conversation going. But which scenario leads to deeper student thinking and what is gained or lost in each? Share any of your thoughts. Thank you for participating here in the chat. Scenario B leads to deeper student thinking. Absolutely. Um, Lots of scenario Bs. That's great. Thank you for adding that. That scenario B, thank you for sharing, offers an opportunity for lots of students to participate, which is great. B, but it may take more time. That is so true. I can see that even being a reason why sometimes instructors, teachers, they hesitate, maybe keeping the conversation going because it's like, oh, you got so many things that you have planned for that lesson or that week, and you know, you want to make sure to get through it all. But when you do have those deep, rich discussions, it is really nice to witness that and collect that feedback. So it's difficult to maybe always lean in towards that, but it does have lots of benefits. I like that. B, and you respond with great, but defend your answer. Yes, totally. We don't want to just be like, okay, thank you for sharing. And then you want them to kind of dig a bit deeper. Awesome discussion. Thank you for all that you put in the chat. Yeah, scenario A is focused on root memory recollection. Absolutely. Awesome. So if I had this discussion in a classroom where I could hear more responses verbally, I might come in and say, say more about that. These are some that we'll share a little bit later too, but um, who sees that differently or who can build on that idea. And some of you already shared in the chat. Thank you. We love to learn from one another. What is the trade-off here if that is your opinion? What evidence from your classroom supports that? So lots of those follow-up questions that you as the instructor could pose as well, maybe if the discussion is not going as deep as you hope it is. So here's some characteristics of dynamic discussions where the students will explain, justify, question themselves, right? Not themselves, but they actually pose the questions to others. That is really great to see. Making connections to either other topics that you've studied in that one course or maybe a different course that is in your career pathway or a real life scenario, making those connections, challenging ideas respectfully, of course, and building on each other's responses. These are the behaviors that we want to see, and notice they're all student actions. So that's a great way that you can see that this discussion encourages visible learning. The power of open-ended questions. So instead of just what is the answer, you may ask what evidence supports your thinking? What might happen if? What alternative perspective exists? The quality of discussion rarely exceeds the quality of the question. So if you just asked for the answer, right, you probably wouldn't get much discussion. But if you add different follow-up questions or sentence stems that were strong and higher up in the Bloom's taxonomy, then you would probably get a lot deeper of a discussion. So question upgrade practice. So let's take about 30 seconds and rewrite this question to encourage discussion. So just chose something that was, probably something that we all studied in K to 12, right? So what are the three causes of the Civil War? You could ask that specific question and you could get a response, or you could upgrade it with these possible starters. Add a why to it, how, what evidence, what if. So thinking that is the original question, what are the three causes of the Civil War? Could you upgrade this question and maybe encourage more discussion in your classroom? Go ahead and take a few more seconds and see how you might turn that question around to encourage some more discussion in your classroom. And please go ahead and feel free to add that to the chat. Some great ideas in the chat, by the way. Thank you for sharing that. Oh, what evidence support the three causes of the Civil War and why? Very good. What if this didn't happen? Oh, I love that. How would that have shaped the Civil War events? Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Why is there public disagreement about the primary causes of the Civil War? That is awesome. Provide your thoughts on the evidence about the three causes of the Civil War. Nice. How did the differences between North and South lead to the Civil War? Excellent. Incorporating that how and what evidence are the three causes of, the Civil War? Yep. What are those three causes? But also, what evidence have you learned that supports that? These are all great. Thank you for sharing that. So discussion moves that teachers can use in the classroom. You could, and many of you have a tremendous list already, so I love that we are able to learn from each other, but say more about that. What makes you think that? Who can build on that? I love that one. Who can build on that? Who has a different perspective? What evidence supports that? And we had a lot of that with our Civil War example. Thank you. So these are just some ideas if you're looking for some additional ones. This will extend the thinking instead of end the conversation with just, question, answer, done. Wait time matters. I know I struggle with that. It's hard to have that silence, right? But research does suggest that it is beneficial to ask the question, take a pause, let the participants or students think, and then respond. Learning often happens in the silence, and students need processing time. Yes. I need to remember that for my own kids too. Need processing time. Equity of voice. So how do we hear from everyone? Even in the first poll, we had a lot of people say, typically same students, and that makes sense. But how do we encourage others to participate? Some suggestions, and if you have any additional ones, feel free to add that in the chat, are to do a think, pair, share. Have chat responses, so if you use computers in the classroom, rather than having someone speak it out loud, you can use one of those great ed tech tools where everybody responds in the chat, and then it could display on your projector for all to see. A random selection, of course, discussion cards, right? So, having small groups and actually having discussion cards that, ask that they respond to those questions, and of course, small groups in general. But feel free to add additional suggestions in the chat to get more student voices. It's not necessarily getting more answers, but getting more voices to be heard. So I have a couple strategy spotlights that I'll share with you. If you have any others you'd like to also put in the chat, feel free. So one is, before asking for public responses, Ask a question, raise your hand, answer that. You could do a think, pair, share. This was actually one of my favorite ones. I just saw that the students would use it as their rehearsal time, right? So if they felt a little embarrassed to say it out loud, then they got to rehearse with that one elbow partner. So give them about 30 seconds, a minute to share their answer to their partner. And this could reduce anxiety because it's just the one partner, and maybe they will adapt their answer depending on what that peer says, and maybe they will actually be able to defend their answer even better because of what that peer says. You just never know. But this is a great way to improve response quality. I've also done where, meet with your elbow partner and then that pair meets with another pair. So now you're a group of four, and then you still have the share out in the classroom, but this is a way to kind of get that practice ahead of time. Um, Another suggestion would be four corners. And so movement creates engagement while encouraging students to defend their reasoning as well. So if you're familiar with four corners, you may know that that's basically like having each corner in your classroom be a response or an answer. And so a lot of times you'll see it range from strongly agree to strongly disagree. And then there's lots of other options, but you could, of course, create your own as well. So, for example, if the question was AI, or the statement, excuse me, AI should replace most traditional homework assignments. You pose that to the class and you ask the students to stand in the corner that has the answer that they agree with. So, oh, I strongly agree with that. I agree with that. I disagree. Oh, I strongly disagree. So I like this one as it encourages movement as well. So take about a minute or two and think of a lesson that you've done in the past, or maybe you're teaching a new course this summer, this fall, and something that you think you can incorporate four corners in. What is the topic? What is the question? What are four answer choices that you could have? Feel free to share that in the chat. What is one question you can pose that relates to your discipline or career path? Feel free to share, respond to others as well. Oh, good. I'm glad. Yes, should put never use AI. That's good. Yes, usually gives them the wrong answer. Yes. Use flip response cards on sticks and then different answers, pair team up. Nice. I like that. So if you have an idea of a question you could pose that you think would be a great example for using four corners in your classroom, feel free to share that in the chat. Medical issues for four corners, absolutely. Ethics, awesome. And ethics would apply to all career paths, probably. Cool. Um, I could use four corners with four strokes of an engine. Nice. Four corners would be great, but then have them support their decision. Yes, I love that follow up because I was going to say you could have them move to the corner and then you can see where the majority is standing. But do you really want to end it there, or you want to encourage the discussion? So thank you, Kellyanne, for sharing that. That's great. Use it in your ethics. Awesome. Communication and English courses. That's awesome. Multiple choice question. Yep. A, B, C, and D answers. Absolutely. Even rather than having it on paper, you could just pose the question and have them move around A, B, C, D. Perfect. Learning about the brain. Example, teens think about making decisions. Emotions help teens make decisions. Awesome. Yes. That's such a good one for teens. This four corners one. Health and PE. Awesome. Thank you for sharing. That is such amazing engagement in here. Thank you so much. Another strategy is save the last word. So this one is basically where one person shares an idea or a claim, but then others respond before that original person defends it. Okay, so they make a claim, they put it out there, and then they let other people respond to it. And this really encourages that speaker to listen. It promotes like, okay, I've got to listen to what others have to say before I can respond. And I know that's kind of hard for a lot of people and a lot of students, I bet, but that original person could get the final word, but it does encourage them to listen to others. So that's a great one too. A discussion as formative assessment. I love this idea. And so I know we're kind of running short on time, so I may go through this a little bit quickly, but I would never give up the great discussion we've had just to get through everything. I can always add that in the follow-up email, so keep them coming. So if you as the instructor would walk around and just listen for misconceptions and how is vocabulary being used? Are students defending their claim with reasoning? What is the reasoning? Is it accurate? Are they saying it confidently? Are they making connections? So you as the instructor could just walk around, maybe have a little clipboard if you work off of an iPad, and you just take these notes, right? You just say, wow, this has come up a few times. It's totally inaccurate. I need to address this. Or you could say, wow, they have really grasped the vocabulary use in this term or in this chapter or unit. So I am loving seeing this. So that is an excellent example for how to use discussion as formative assessment. Lots of examples here. During discussion, as you're walking around, you could ask, what do students know? What misunderstandings exist? Who needs support? Who is ready for extension? You think of yourself as a collector of evidence rather than the center of the discussion. And so that's a great way to demonstrate how being a facilitator, you know, is the path to help you with that assessment and making your next decisions moving forward with the data you collected. So I have a design challenge opportunity. I don't know that we'll have enough time, but I'm going to try it anyway. So I'd love for you to apply today's learning by building a discussion experience that you could use next week, of course, maybe at the end of your semester or next fall, for example. So you could think of a topic, think of an open-ended question, discussion, structure, and evidence you would collect. So I'm going to leave this up here. If you want to share that in the chat, you can. If you want to just write it down, you can do that. If you want to just put it on your digital notepad, you could do that. But this design challenge is just a way to kind of collect everything that we've learned so far today and apply it, something you can use right away. So can you think of a topic? Let me see if I have that animated in my next one because I gave an example, but yes, choose an upcoming lesson. So topic, I have diagnosing a vehicle that won't start. Um, Feel free to share yours in the chat. Ah, yes, elder abuse. Okay, thank you. Where can we copy the slides? Good question. I am going to send these slides as a in the follow-up email. So you can definitely take those with you, and anything we didn't get through today, you'll still have them. But if you want to just think about a way to kind of design a lesson using everything that we learned. So diagnosing a vehicle that won't start, I have. An open-ended question could be, a car won't start, but the lights still come on. What could be the cause? How could you improve it, or how could you prove it? No problem. I know it's quick to have like 1 or 2 minutes to do that. So I totally understand. But that's why I wanted to have one that I could share with you as well, just to give you an example when I do send you that PowerPoint presentation for sure. And then a discussion structure could be having small group discussion with 3 or 4 students. Students agree on the most likely cause and outline steps to test it. And then evidence you could collect. The group could come up with a diagnostic plan, steps with reasoning, and your exit ticket could be a diagnosis and the first test and why they chose that. So lots of ways to kind of upgrade your class discussions. If you find that that is something you'd like to work toward, here's an example, and I'll have that in the PowerPoint I sent to you, but feel free to add more of your thoughts in the chat as well. Glad you like the challenge. Ooh, consideration as it relates to contract law. Nice. All right, so in the next 2 minutes, if you'd like to share, I'd like to do the 3-2-1 reflection, but I know we're running out of time. But if you'd like to share anything you've learned, any discussion strategy you'll try, or one question you still have, feel free to throw that in the chat. Love to see that. Can pose an open-ended question about robotics movement. Nice. So feel free to share anything, something you learned, something you'll try, and maybe a question you have. Yes, there will be a certificate for PD. Absolutely. I will send it via email. Glad that the template was helpful. Awesome. Thank you. This would be great to engage students, especially in my nursing class. Thank you. I'm so glad to hear that. This was great. Oh, good. I'm glad that the speed is okay. Yes. Well, thank you for all of your thoughts, everybody. Um, I will just put this up here. You'll still probably get an email like you already did to register, but our next session is the Path to Mastery, a blueprint for explicit instruction. So please feel free to scan the QR code and join us for the next session of the Educator's Edge, which you can do right here, or we will certainly have that in the follow-up email as well. And of course, if you would be so kind as to give us any feedback, we'd love to collect it so we can always improve and make sure we're meeting your expectations. That would be great. Oh, Four Corners was helpful. Awesome. Save the last word strategy. Yes, nice. Thanks for sharing. And thank you for spending the last half hour with us. We're so glad you're here and hope you continue to come back and continue learning in our webinar series.